Hello there, and welcome to Pritchard Pub. Tonight we have a special guest. His name is Justin K. Sweet. Say hello to everybody, Justin.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
Yeah. Justin is the creator of Chrome Dog,
This
and
guy right here.
yeah, as I like to say, an artist bro, or like no, comic cousin. That's what I like to say, comic
Comic
cousin, because
cousin. There you go.
we have the same artist, right? Luke Stone. Who's
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, because he's
yeah.
doing that. He's doing that fantasy book for you, right?
Yeah. He's
Sweet.
a
Heck yeah.
Saga of Sunsets. He's
Sweet.
doing that one. Yeah. Fantastic guy, honestly.
Heck yeah.
But yeah,
Where would we be?
exactly. I mean, but yeah. I know that's how I, you know, heard about you was through Luke. I think on Twitter.
Yep.
Just from afar. But I know tonight we have kind of a topic. I mean, we usually just kind of chill, but I mean, I'm down to talk about some professionalism in the indie space. Um, I hear you have some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean, so but I guess before we go on, this
Yeah, yeah.
image up here, I don't know if you guys can see it behind me, but that's Storm. It's a print. Oh, here we go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a print that Luke did of Storm.
Oh, hell yeah.
So yeah, just want
Hell
to
yeah.
shout out Luke Stone out there
Oh yeah, dude.
if you're hearing.
Luke's the man. Luke's the
Yeah,
man.
he's great.
If you get some wind of this,
Yeah, but no, you know, I kind of people who know me on Twitter, I don't typically post something unless it's something of value. I guess I try not.
yeah.
I'm not a shit poster by any stretch of the imagination, and I definitely don't troll. Now I
Right.
might joke a little bit here and there, but usually I'll respond to a lot of people with like gifs and whatever. Sometimes I'll interact with people in their own tweets, but when it comes to my own posting, I what I'll do is I'll say something, and sometimes it gets misconstrued, or some people would take something as like a hasty generalization, and that's more or less
Right.
what happened to this tweet of what I put out, which I guess I might be able to like kind of show it
Oh yeah.
if you
You
would
present
permit
it.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, let
Present
me.
it away.
Yeah. Let me see if I can
Yeah.
find it. It might take me a sec, but yeah, I initially I put I put out a essentially what I was trying to say is the loudest voices here in the indie space seem to be at each other's throats,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, dude.
there's like the lobbing and the volleying of insults and slights to each other, and these are people who are supposed to be professional in their in what they do, right? In the way they present themselves. Okay, like on the one
Leader.
hand, yes, okay,
Leader.
leaders, a leader. There should be some sort of leadership. Whether they want to be a leader, whether they're putting themselves out there to be a leader, there needs to be some sort of accountability and say, hey, if I'm leading a charge, call it what you will, whether it's Comics Gate or you call it, Iron Age, or you don't even use those monikers and you say, it's all about my business. Whichever, you, you would do better to actually have a little bit of tact and be kind, right? Like let kindness be, be kind and be charitable. You don't always have to come like swinging all the time, and so I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of these loudest voices, I should say, are really kind of putting it out there in that way.
Right. Right.
And I
No,
don't
100%.
necessarily I don't necessarily want to, like name names, but I mean, I definitely can. I'm
I
not
mean,
afraid to name
yeah.
names.
Well, the ones who are, and this is one of my favorite graphics of a boss versus a leader, and you can kind
Mm,
of it says it all. You don't even need it labeled.
right.
But yeah, those closest to like the Iron Age, for example, or like Comicsgate, know who we're just know who we're talking about. But like I think we've all seen these types of people in
Right.
any space. I mean, it's even prevalent in our government, right? So
Yeah.
like it's everywhere, right? So I think this is actually a really super relevant topic, even though we're just a couple of indie guys just like sharing our thoughts. No, dude, this is everywhere though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
So
Well, and when I was in the military, we had this phrase that we would all say, or that was always spoken, I guess, and it's that attitude reflects leadership. And I think in the current zeitgeist, we don't have enough people stepping up and actually being and becoming leaders. There's and there's it's almost like there's a on the other hand, you've got a lot of people that think that they're leaders, but they're really not. Oh, the Don. Thanks, Don. He's
yeah,
coming back.
I'm
He's
gonna
great.
flash the chat here while we
Yeah,
go.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Anyway.
But yeah, so I'm sharing the tweet
Oh yeah.
or whatnot if that matters. But yeah, so my initial post was, I'm realizing that the indie comics space, be it Comicsgate, Iron Age, or what have you, is definitely lacking in two things: kindness and professional courtesy.
Right.
Now, this is probably this is the biggest reach I've ever gotten in a tweet, and I'm
Hmm.
amazed at that. I really am.
Huh.
And the thing is, like, there's no graphics here. Yes, yes, I did two hashtags,
Yeah, yeah.
but it definitely got people thinking. It got people talking in one way or the other. Now they didn't necessarily like interact with me as you see here, but that's fine. They don't have to
That's fine.
interact. I mean,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
is what it is.
Eyes on it is its own thing. So
Exactly. And
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not, as you can see, there's no, I'm not, what do they call it? I'm not, what's the term? It's
Mm,
escaping me.
mm.
Twitter, I'm not
Um,
verified, right? So
gotcha.
I
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
I don't pay to play, or
Right.
or I haven't submitted the right paperwork to show that I'm somebody. So I'm just a nobody out here in the internet, right?
You could be anybody. You could be.
Exactly. I could be anybody, except I use my real name, which that's another thing I want to kind of highlight is a lot of people don't use their real names, and they hide
Mm,
behind like one to two to three aliases. I've noticed that in this indie space, and that to me that kind of goes into the professional courtesy, right?
mhm.
If you're doing, and I'm going to use this as an aside, if you're doing business with somebody, and let's say you're gonna do a certain portion of the project, like whether it's lettering or coloring for them, right?
Mhm.
You should kind of like level with that person and say, hey, this is my this is my form of payment, whether it's PayPal or like whatever.
Mhm.
And my name is really this, but it's going to show up as this, right? Just like be upfront about it, right?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I've dealt with that their names don't necessarily match what I'm being presented with. That's
Have
shady.
you
That
have
is
you heard?
shady.
So I actually agree with like I actually didn't hear much of of anything I disagreed with there. Have you heard anybody discuss the idea of transparency and how it has been affecting success of really, I think personally, it's everything, but people mainly focus on indies. Like, for example, Eric July, one of the
Hmm.
things people talk about with Eric July is how transparent he is with, oh, here's how much fucking money I made. Here's literally how much I sold. Here's all the employees I have. You know what I mean? Like, he brings receipts and he's just very transparent about everything. That's just one example. You can count other examples too. I think I don't know much about him, but just at a glance, like Sanderson, for example, he's not an indie, but like he's pretty transparent about like, I know he did like crowdfunding and stuff, and he has like a podcast and is pretty open to just discuss things, for example. And it seems like the more people are A, nice, B, professional, and C, just like transparent in general, like you said, your real name, like, well, you got nothing to hide. I understand I understand the strengths behind an alias, for example, or online anonymity, but there's also some positives to your real name. Like, this is my real name also.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It's a cool name. I mean, regardless, like
I was not. Yeah, I mean, well, growing up, I always thought it was kind of lame, but then I grew into thinking it was like, it sounded like a doctor, but
Sure.
it turns out this whole time it's an author. That's what it is. I'm a writer. I'm an author. So that's what it is. But
I mean,
but yeah, dude, I agree.
Did they ever call you Pritch? You know, it's like, what's up, Pritch? You know.
Oh no. And sometimes I wonder if it is pronounced differently, right? Because like I found out it's a Welsh descent. So
man, it
is
could
it
go any direction with that one.
Yeah. Have you seen Welsh words and how
Yeah.
ridiculous?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. 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 Yeah.
That is
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
language. It's Welsh and Russian, and then obvious ones like Egyptian and like Chinese and stuff. That
Yeah.
like, I'm like, ooh, that looks. I can't. I don't even know where to begin with that. You know, like
Yeah.
Russian's a great example, but like Welsh is like
Yeah.
using our alphabet, and I still
Yeah.
don't know where to begin with it.
Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Like in Gaelic, right?
Yeah.
And I don't even know which language it comes from, but you know, we see in our vernacular, we see Sam Hain, but it's pronounced Sawane. It's like, what is that? Like, why? How?
That's
Explain
classic.
that. You know.
Yeah. Classic.
So,
But
yeah.
is it like Pritchard or something? I don't know. But anyway,
I mean, it's possible,
yeah.
or it
maybe.
it could be Bradley for all we know.
Yeah, yeah, they could. Yeah, dude, probably. But yeah, in the indie space, it definitely seems like the more transparent people are, the more successful they are. Like, I don't know if you're familiar with John A. Douglas.
Yeah.
That dude
yeah.
on his YouTube channel, he straight up like breaks down everything with his book. He actually is somebody that made me realize I shouldn't be so afraid for spoilers and stuff. Like, a lot of authors like to gatekeep their world, and that's cool and all. It's super cool, like to build to this grand reveal over the course of 6 thick 400-page books. That's a cool
Yep.
idea. Takes a long time though, and I mean, I got more stories I could write, and I just want to nerd out about this with people, honestly.
Right.
So that's where I'm at.
Well, and
Nothing
that's
to hide.
and that's the thing. Like, how can people enjoy your book in a vacuum? Because a lot of I mean, this is a small corner of the internet, right? Where my crowdfunding campaign, I had less than 150 backers, so.
Yeah.
I've got to really put my name, put what's going on in this story out there, at least, a good lion's share of it. There's some stuff I don't want to spoil in there because I want people to enjoy it. But at the same time, it's kind of like, what do I have to lose? Because not many people, even the people who backed me, aren't hearing me talk about it because they're not necessarily watching me at the time that I'm, live or this or that. They may never see the replay or any of that stuff. And so, who am I? So I might as well just spoil it because it is what it is, and eventually, we'll get to a place where I'll have enough readers to where I won't need to spoil anything.
Right.
And
No,
I
that's
think, and
that's what I was thinking at. Yeah.
and I think the part of the professionalism also comes in where you're looking at goals, right? Is the goal to make money in comics or in novels, right? Is that your goal? Because you picked I mean, I can only
worst.
speak for myself. We picked a very horrible place to find it.
Terrible.
Okay.
At least at first. But to be honest, dude, over 30 years releasing X amount per year, that's product that's not going anywhere. I don't know. There's an argument to be made, but yes, at first, terrible.
But here's the thing is, right? People would look at someone like Eric July and see how much success he made to them it's a short time, right?
Yeah.
But he spent the better
Yeah.
part of a decade
Yeah, dude.
building his presence, building his, like, the people that are going to interact with him, the people that are going to f with him,
Yeah,
right?
dude.
As they would say, as the cool
Yeah.
kids say.
As he
You know,
says, as Eric
and I
says.
and I was one of them. Okay, and I want to say this. I want to dote at least a little bit on Air July, in that, 2018. I was disappointed with what was happening in Marvel movies or whatever, and I just
Yeah,
happened
dude.
across one of his videos on Captain Marvel, this upcoming movie,
Yeah.
and he did his little thing where he was talking about Captain Marvel, and it was tokenization and this and that. I was like, okay,
100%.
cool, I can do that. And then immediately after that, because I was letting YouTube just kind of flow, it started playing a video about. So I'm like, and it's him again talking about Malcolm X and why he, and why he likes out Malcolm X, or whatever. I can't remember exactly how he said it, but
Mhm.
it resonated with me on such a deep level, because I've always been fascinated with race relations anyway. My mother
Mhm.
went to a predominantly black university here in Tennessee, and so and so I've grown up around that culture, and so I get it, and I've always been intrigued by how they treat each other based on the color of their skin. Like, that's
Yeah.
always just really, on some deep level for me, that's always just intrigued me. And so when he said that, I like stood up and was like, he's not talking like other people I've listened to in his,
Right.
supposedly, as a hasty generalization. And so I started listening to him. As I did, he kind of like broke me out of my, Republican / conservative mold, and was like, hey, there's this thing called libertarianism. I'm like, what is that?
Yeah.
So he was kind of like a touchstone, and I moved on into other libertarian circles. I learned all about the Austrian School of Economics and all that fun stuff. And so it just like completely opened my mind to a lot of
Right.
different things. And that's now in the rear view. But so I was with him, right? And so
Mhm.
when he was coming along and he was like, I'm doing this comic, thing. I'm doing the Rippaverse and stuff, and
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
he talked a big game against the big two, and I was like,
Make good
okay.
points.
Yeah,
Make
I
good
was like,
points.
okay, okay. And then he brought up EVS. I'm like, who's EVS? And so I look him up. I'm like, oh, Comics Gate. What is this? And so I look it up and I start following that. And I start rocking with that, right?
Right.
And I look at these two people and I'm like, okay, so between EVS and Air July, I'm like, okay, if they can make comic books, why can't I? And
Right.
so that's kind of what started me on my journey into where I'm at now.
And it's no holier than thou thing. It's just kind of like
No,
a realization. You know what I mean?
right.
Just like, oh, that's possible. Oh,
It's
that's literally
possible.
possible. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly. That
Oh,
that is a thing that can be done, right?
yeah. Yeah.
And I brought with it no preconceived notions. I still, I try to be as charitable with both of them in their own fields as possible. And I always try to relate to them on kind of where they're coming from, as they lob, volleys towards each other one way or the other.
Right.
And so I just have to kind of like, okay, not really care about what they're doing, because it's like, okay, well, I was inspired, and so here I am. I'm doing my thing, and so I'm going to
Exactly.
make my thing as big as I can get, and I'm going to do what I can to bring a bunch of different creators along with me, and hopefully we can make something cool that people are going to want to enjoy, and people are going to
Exactly.
want to read. And if I get to a place where I'll be like Brian Polito or Billy Tucci in 30 years, then that's all I can ask for. You know,
Right. Right.
I mean,
Oh, and like in the best, so no, that's like very well said, bro. But in the interest of like there being two sides, like for starters, I am right there with you where I just am like trying to stay out of all this stuff or whatever. Because like yeah, there is such a thing as drama farming, and it can positively affect your algorithm, but I mean you're also attracting a certain a certain crowd, so to speak, like just people that are there for the drama, so to speak, and it becomes addictive, for example. And like, it's just like what we were talking about right at the beginning, about a leader versus a boss, and like I was saying, in the best interest of presenting a second side to all this, like, for as inspirational as like people such as Eric July and EVS are, and how good of an example they can be for some of what we're saying, because like, if I'm not mistaken, EVS has done some pretty nice things, right? I mean, even just doing even just doing art for Andrew Tate is pretty fucking nice of him.
Well,
Just
yeah.
saying.
I mean,
Saying. That's
it
pretty
was a
nice,
paid
bro.
gig. I mean, it was a paid gig, and
Right.
he was like, "Hey, I'm going to do this thing." But he's
Pretty
done
nice.
he's done nice things for people, smaller stature than him as well.
Yeah. But what, yeah. So yeah, the point I was getting at is they're also great examples of unprofessionalism, because, it's one reason why Eric, like why many people love Eric, is how he is completely willing to go after people lying about him. He'll, like I said, he'll show up with receipts and stuff. And I'm pretty sure EVS is kind of in the same vein, where he's not afraid to say stuff like really ever. Both of them are kind of like that. So, but there's a certain level of professionalism that one needs to maintain once they become a CEO.
Exactly.
Basically.
And they're both
there's-
CEOs of their own companies. What we're what we're witnessing here, folks, is that this may be a smaller scale, but this is like Bezos calling out Musk, and then just like having at it on like in like for the public, like the public to see. And it's like, well, that's not, that this isn't
Doesn't
the
help
arena
anybody.
for that. No, and it's not. I mean, okay, actually, a prime example. Okay, you want to talk about professionalism, and let's kind of take it out of this space. But when I don't know if you saw the clip, but Elon Musk, he was being interviewed, and he called out and said that that Bob Iger can go F himself, and I'm just like, what? Like,
Yeah, it's pretty
I mean,
direct.
there's you got. I mean, it's the cult of personality, and that's the place where we live now. And guess what? It's because there is a lack of leadership, and I think the leadership has to start with maybe ourselves governing our tongue. Maybe that's the first little leader that we need to kind of rein in.
It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird. My mama always said, you treat other people the way you want to be treated.
That's it.
And so I do, and it's weird how I mean, yeah, some people still will treat you like shit and take advantage of you, but like, for the most part, you actually tend to attract some really nice people when you just treat others the way you want to be treated.
Well, and that's the original person who said that was Jesus, right?
Oh,
so Jesus Christ said that.
There you go.
And he says, treat others as you'd have them, as you'd have to be treat others as you'd have them treat you, right?
Do unto others. Is that line?
Do unto others. There you go. Do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Again, it's same thing, same concept. And the thing is, for two people, and especially in the EVS corner, for someone who claims that religion, the religiosity of it,
Yep.
not a lot of treating others as he would want to be treated, because it seems like he would treat others so that they would react, and then he has more content, and that's unbecoming of someone who should be standing up and actually being a leader.
What you're saying then is EVS partakes of a particular belief, which I'm sure he would encourage others to partake in that same belief, which that belief encourages said followers to act a certain way in a moral category, but then he doesn't actually walk that. He doesn't walk the walk for the talk that he talks. So like, this is relevant again, right?
Right.
So
Well,
there,
ultimately, if I can even say also on this, right? This graphic is perfect, right?
I know.
On multiple levels. On one of them, okay, we have people trying to wrestle with us and trying to get us to believe how they believe, right? So they want us
Right.
to think how they think. They want us to have opinions about movies that they have about them. And there are so many people that are just willing to fall in line and say, I don't like this movie because such and such said this movie sucks, right? And so they're
It's
just
easier.
not going to do the thing, right?
Yeah, it's easier
And
not to think. Yeah.
and and so I'm seeing there's a certain channel, and I'm not one to call anybody out because I someone will call me out at some point, I guess.
Well, gotta
But
not
there's
live
this,
in fear, brother.
yeah, no, there's this little channel who's he's definitely attacking Eric July a lot,
Yeah.
and he's definitely on the Friday Night Tights side of things,
Interesting. Because they're
and
they're usually pro July.
right, but this
Right.
guy is not because he's anti Ripaverse. Like the whole thing having to do with Ripaverse, he is not impressed by anything having to do with the comics.
Oh,
Like
okay.
he's he's trying to give his honest opinion about it, and he's seen how
Yeah.
people have given their honest opinion, and they've been taken to the woodshed by Eric July. So I mean, I'm just saying this is his like so so he basically says because such and such person from Friday Night Tights says this, then I believe him, and I'm not going to do the thing.
Oh.
Like
Oh.
he openly says, he's like, this person says this movie sucks. I'm not going to watch it because I believe such and such. And then this other person that's on Friday Night Tights, they believe this, and I'm not going to participate in that because he says it, and I believe him, and I know it sucks. And so it's like, okay, cool. So you're not a free thinking individual. You're not going to make your own decisions. You're just going to let other people all around you on the internet do it for you.
Well,
Fantastic.
props to him though for being honest about it.
Right?
Most people aren't.
That's true. No, you're right. But at the same time, I don't think he would, like, unless somebody would bring it up to him and say, hey, dude, do you realize that they're thinking for you? And he's like, oh, wow. No, I had no idea.
Oh, were they thinking for me? Damn.
Blew
No,
my
dude, I'm right
mind.
there with you. Like, I mean, like I said, it's easier not to think. I mean, and don't get me wrong, it's okay to have like trusted sources. So having like those people can definitely weigh your opinion in some way, but you should never let them dictate it, if that makes sense, because then you're just kind of passing along the news. And when you just pass along, well, not even the news, it's not even the news, right? But like it's kind of trying to treat it like it's news, like this
Right.
divine decree came down. Did you hear that this is what this is because so and so said that?
Right.
No, I get you.
And what's crazy is we're all just at a table, and this sounds disgusting, but we're all at a table full of vomit, and we're just consuming pieces of it, and
Yeah.
we're just like vomiting it back up. So do you
Yeah.
do you mind do you mind if I take issue with this comment?
You could. Well, I mean, we're all nobody needs to get
Well,
angry, but like,
I'm
yeah,
not
you can
angry.
disagree.
I want to try to like expound on this
Expound
or
on it.
yeah, a little bit.
That's why we're here, brother. We love talking here. So
So Eric July did not grow his channel that much by monetizing his haters. If anything, he monetized his haters and that lined his pockets to help fund ISOM originally, right? ISOM 1 and then I guess eventually ISOM 2 because he did a few monetize your haters between ISOM 1 and ISOM 2. I was tuned in then, okay? I was completely tuned in then.
mhm.
And was fully on board with ISOM 1. I was there on launch day. I managed to get, cover B. Like I was there. I was in it to win it with him. But the way he grew his channel was he made videos and he did the work for the better part of a decade, and he navigated through both comics and then also the libertarian stuff. He did both of those things, and he had his podcast that he not only did he gain the following that was on YouTube with his podcast that was on YouTube, but he also actually did something that a lot of people don't do. They don't take the podcast portion and turn it into an actual podcast that people can download to their phones or their podcatchers and actually listen to instead of watching a video all the time. He did that. And that was a way to kind of gain a listenership that would not otherwise, that would otherwise not be accessible on YouTube. Not enough people are doing that. So what he did was he actually expanded and created his and captivated, or I don't know, captivated is a good way to say it, captured, but captivated an audience who were there for him. And while they were there, he was like, hey, guess what? I got this, I'm with a band, and he did tours with the band. And I mean, and I like backwards music a lot. Veracity is matter of fact, I need to listen to it again. I hadn't heard it in a while. I wore it out there for a while, and then I got to go back to it. But but the thing is, like, he grew, his brand, so to speak, right, as Eric D. July. On so many different ways, so many different platforms, so many different subjects. I mean, he could talk, race. He could talk, which he didn't do a lot of, but it definitely factored a little bit of it into some of his rebuttals about economics, for sure. Especially when he gets to talking Thomas Sowell and oh my gosh, Walter E. Williams. Oh my gosh, when he starts talking about like those two guys, I mean, they're both black men. Both, economists in their own right. And when he talks Mises, like talks all that stuff, like that's one segment of his listenership. But then when he goes into the comic books, he's definitely a comic consumer. And I guess I'm by myself now. Hi, everybody. But
no, I'm still here. You're good.
Okay.
You're good.
Okay, good. So he does the comic commentary on what's bad with the mainstream here, there, and everywhere. What's bad with mainstream comic books in Hollywood and then in all of that. And so that kind of builds up a base there. So and then he has the music base, right? So there's three. Yep. I mean, at least three different bases. Not to mention, I'm sure there's people that have been with him since his very beginning, right? And so all of those people aggregate into this big fan base of who he is as a person, who he's shown himself to be as a person. And 10% of those people showed up to back ISOM 1, okay? 10%, not 1%, 10% showed up. And those statistics bear out. That's exactly what happened. And it
is usually like 1%, right?
That's what people say, but I want
like
to for some reason I think it's 10%. I think it really is. It's 10%.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Your
10%
reach,
showed up for him.
Your 10 well, no, but I'm saying 10% of your reach is actually the people that will show up. So like for me, my reach is like I could look at Twitter right now, right? My reach currently is like around 1,000, and I had a little bit over 100 people show up for me for a Chrome Dog. And that's not a one-to-one because a lot of people follow me on Twitter. Not a lot of people back from links on Twitter. But I'm again, it's just the math does kind of check out in that way. Yeah. So 1%'s really low. And it's definitely not from him monetizing and Tater. I just wanted to say that because that's icing on the cake for him. That's money. That's gas in the tank for him. That allows him to buy my truck and help fund my business.
Yeah, and he was saying here that that's just part of it. So
yeah.
It's like let me get some gas in my
flesh
truck.
It out a little. Yeah, I want to flesh it out a little bit.
Yeah.
But and I mean, if people are going to argue with him, right, might as well take advantage of the seize the moment. But I will say as a debater, he's not very good. What he would need to do is actually have someone moderate. I think a lot of times in these debates, people don't. There's no such thing as a moderator anymore. I mean, hell, every time there's a presidential election, they have these debates. They're not real debates. Nobody's debating anything. They're just trying to talk over each other and take up too much time
Yep.
of of each other's time. It's ridiculous.
Try to stalemate it or something. Just like run the clock.
A straw man. Oh man, everybody's got a straw man, and that's so.
Yeah.
Now my big point here, before we get back to talking about professionalism, but my big point that I want to say here, and I've said it in other places, is that I believe that Eric July and Ethan Van Sciver are talking past each other. I really think if they could put aside their petty differences and whatever this drama farming is doing for their businesses and everything else, if they could somehow like come together and team up, right? You got one guy's got my business, and the other guy's got my comics, and they come together and they can actually create this big like machine that can actually do something for a change.
Yeah.
And actually shows some sort of professionalism, some sort of leadership in the industry in a way, in a positive way, then we can actually see some mountains daggone move. But until then, I mean, the rest of us are just going to be down here making our little hills, and that's okay.
Yeah, they're two dudes that have moved mountains by themselves, and then imagine what they could do together. How big of a mountain they can move the earth, right?
100%.
So,
100%.
it is rather frustrating to see leaders in any field. I don't know if this was before the stream or at the beginning. If we mentioned this, just the leader in any field, it's relevant to. Like this happens everywhere, like even in our own government and stuff. So it's like everywhere you look, you see people arguing over what seems like kind of just like opinions usually, and like nonsensical, like what do I call it? I call it a gray area issue, just things where there's not really a right answer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like for example, the a woman's right to choose, right? I would say it is what it is, right? It is what it is as far as pro-life people go. That is what it is. You're doing that thing, but I support I support your right to choose, but you're still doing that thing that you're doing, kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's
I know what you mean. I hear what you're saying.
It's a hard answer.
No, I know. Well, and the thing is, and
I support your freedom, but you're still doing the thing.
I would extend it. I would even extend it to. I don't even know what words we can say on YouTube, but I would extend it.
It's kind of fun.
No, I would extend it to when a person decides that they don't want to. They want to no longer go on living. Right.
Yeah.
So I believe that we are, as human beings, we're autonomous regardless, right? And so if we have a choice, we should be free to make that choice. Now, if that choice lands us in the slammer because we injured or took someone else's life, as far as like a fully grown adult human being or even like an actual born child, right? That we'll just say that, right? Those are the lines. Those are any human that's actually breathing air. Okay, let's say that. Okay, humans that are breathing air. Then there should be consequences for those actions. But when it comes to the beginning of or what concerns the beginning of life, or there at the end, whoever the actual rational party, they have to be the ones to bear the consequences one way or the other. So for the person at the beginning of the life, mothers, well, I mean that's what you are, right? As a mother, you have to bear the consequences of your actions regardless of what happens. Right?
Well, just like the man getting the lady knocked up, right? They say, well, you got to be the father, step it up. Well, and this is my whole point with this. I'm not even trying to make this a subject.
Let's talk about it. That's fine.
At all, but like the only point I even brought it up is it's like a gray area issue, right? Like, of course, everybody's going to disagree on it because there's so many different layers to this, and that's why I just presented but also this.
It's one of those areas, and in those gray areas, I'm one of those that believes the government has no place in that
Right.
area.
Well,
You know,
yeah.
it's you put certain safeguards in one where like on the one end or the other, and
Mhm.
you just say, okay, this is how this is going to be. That's it. There's no overreach. There's like none of that. You're just like
Yeah.
you're an autonomous person. There are going to be consequences for like moral, like your own like psyche. Okay,
Hmm.
because
Oh,
I've
100%.
seen
Yeah.
I've seen different sides of the issue
It's a, yeah.
in real time. So, but yeah,
Damn. Yeah.
that's a
It's
heavy
a,
that's a
it's a
heavy one
heavy
right
thing.
there.
It is. No, and it's
But yeah,
like,
no,
this is what
that's a perfect gray area for sure.
yeah, you'll see everybody disagree on that, and
Yeah.
that's, I just, these leaders in every field seem to just find some, like, okay, here's the one I've been talking about lately.
Okay.
Neil deGrasse Tyson pushing non-scientific ideologies. The man of
Like,
science, the
right.
man himself, pushing the least, just the most anti-science
Like what?
things.
Like give me an example,
Okay,
if
like,
you can on YouTube.
well, like, okay, so like when people have kind of caught on to this now
Uh-huh.
at this point. So when he appears on podcasts, at some point they'll ask him what he thinks about like gender ideology
Oh
and
my gosh,
race theory and stuff like that.
irrelevant.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah,
should,
and
the first thing should be just completely irrelevant.
yeah, 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 yeah. It's
It's like lack of foundation, like objection, lack of foundation.
anti-science. Well, like I said, anti-science, and this is the man of science, right? So like, and
Yeah.
and his one of his favorite comebacks is, "Why do you care?" And it's like, well, because you're a man of science, and this is a question. So is that how we should answer you when you say all these stupid fucking questions about the fucking universe that nobody asked? Are we supposed to just respond to you? Why do you care? Because I think we
Right.
will from now on, buddy. How about that?
Yeah. I
We'll
mean
find
that
a different
works.
science man. Let's
Yeah,
find
yeah,
a
yeah.
different science man.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
and not Bill Nye. Let's do us
yeah.
a favor.
He's
Let's not
another.
ask that science guy.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
He's
a
another. Yeah.
he's a shyster too. I'm
I
telling
think they're
you.
both bought and paid for personally,
Oh
but like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's easy
they
for
find
sure.
they reach a point where they reach like these. I mean, that's less of a gray area issue what we talked about, but like, yeah, they reach like gray area issues in every field, and it's like somebody finds this hill and they just get stuck on it, and then they wither and die, and it's sad because they're supposed to be leaders, and they just turn into like whatever that is that they turn into, like fallen heroes. I don't know.
Well,
They even seem like they're
they
aging more.
should, they should be right. They should be these fallen heroes, but what they end up
Yes.
being are like the living dead. Like they're
Yeah,
still alive, and no one
dude.
understands why. I mean, we
Yeah,
have
dude.
certain medical professionals that told certain things during a certain outbreak of a certain kind a few years ago,
Certain.
and
Yep.
and that person
Yeah.
is somehow still like not in shackles. I don't understand. Still trying to figure that one out.
Well,
I mean, there's not going to be any justice for any of that. So,
as when the subject gets brought up with my mother, I always tell her we'll find out. The truth will come out. The
it
truth
always
shall
does.
come out. Yeah.
Always does. One way or the other.
Oh, for sure.
Hopefully, it won't be with much bloodshed. That's for sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's a lot of stuff going on
That's
at the border.
that's one of the things. That's one of the things that motivated me to create my own world with Chrome Dog, and I've created an entirely. You can't really see it in this image, but there's two moons, right? So there's there's
Sick.
this small blue moon, and then there's this larger yellow moon, and
Sick.
that's so the big one is Proximo, and the little one's called Lux, and those orbit a planet that is it's actually it's funny that you brought up Neil that Tyson guy
Yeah. Yeah.
because he's known for astronomy as far as I remember, and
Yeah.
if you look up in the sky you see Orion's belt, and I think it's the leftmost star is actually the planet that where Chrome Dog lives. That's like it orbits that star. And so essentially those moons are reflecting that light, if you will. But
Yeah.
what about the green one where the goblins come from? There is no green.
Yes.
I don't see it. There's no green north on there. Do you have? Oh, you have a green green planet or a green moon?
I should now. I
Oh,
mean,
nice.
I think he's pitching. I think
Oh, okay,
I
gotcha.
think I might catch that one. I might catch it. The green moon.
Yeah,
No, I got three myself. I got three moons.
yeah.
The pink or red one, the pale, and the dark. The third evil moon, the dark one.
Nice, nice.
No, few people like the planet stays pretty primitive. Oh, I see. I see. Goblin
Yep.
Slayer has the goblins are aliens in Goblin Slayer Bat Sauce. It's been a while. I got to catch up on that. They're aliens.
Is that an anime or something?
Yeah, a really good
Oh,
one.
nice.
Really good one.
Is that related to Demon Slayer, or is it just in name only?
Not related at all. But I think Demon Slayer, one of
Slayer,
them.
Slayer.
Yeah, dude. I think they got the idea from somewhere. The Slayer
Mm.
thing is a new. I don't know how new it is actually, but it's like a thing in anime. I'm here for it. It's like Batman, Spider-Man kind of thing, Superman,
Hey,
in the West.
sure.
Yeah. You got your Goblin Slayer, your Demon Slayer, your Sushi Slayer,
Nice.
your whatever.
That's
I don't know.
me. I think I'm a slayer of sushi.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I'm a I'm a I'm a
You're
tonight
a
I'm a
Heineken
Heineken.
slayer.
I'm a Heineken Slayer
Yeah,
tonight.
me too.
Yeah.
I got bodies all over down here. I got four cans to prove it.
Hell yeah. Well,
but anyway.
I don't partake too often, but I figured tonight was a special occasion since I'm chatting with my comic cousin here.
Well, thanks.
So, so tell us about Chrome Dog. Tell us some stuff about it.
So, all right. So, Chrome Dog, as I alluded to, he lives on a planet that's on a completely different than Earth, right? So the onus was this world sucks. So I wanted to create one that was different, but how to get there without space technology, because I didn't want to do some weird space like sci-fi stuff, right? Not in the traditional sense. So it's through a
Right.
series, and I hate to use the word Stargate, but through a portal, right? There was a mass exodus from this planet to that one. And by the time you catch up with Chrome Dog in issue number 1, that world has been inhabited for the better part of 2,000 years. And so, his world around him, he's in a mega city, that's kind of like a cross between. Are you familiar with Judge Dredd? It's like a big mega city, and then mixed with Gotham City, and so he basically that city
Yeah.
is this big megatropolis. You got lots of noise going on, yeah. The kids.
Yeah, I gotta go check
I
the
love
kid
it.
real quick. I'll be right back.
That's
Keep telling us about Chrome Dog.
All right. So basically, Chrome Dog is it's about this city that's gotten just way out of hand. Crime is at an all new high, and it's time for some heroes to come along. And Chrome Dog, he kind of fits the bill, and it's basically he's going around and he's got I guess in this story, to start things off, he's a downloaded human consciousness in a cybernetic werewolf looking body, and he has a little ride along virtual intelligence named Sally, and she's not at all helpful, or she becomes not helpful. And in his pursuit to try to find meaning, because he doesn't know where he came from, he just kind of woke up in this suit and had to dig himself out of the ground and everything else. He he sees how the humans do it, and they're pretty much having to earn a living, so he does it himself. And I say the humans, he himself is a human. He just doesn't quite know who he is. And so yeah, this he feels compelled to save a mother and her daughter from being abducted in this amusement park. And so yeah, that's pretty much how the story goes along. But Chrome Dog is my love letter to both Batman and Spider Man, in different ways. But the main thing that I want to kind of drive home is that, you know, it's storytelling of, you know, your typical superhero, gotta save the girl, save the woman. In this case, you know, he has a chance to potentially save both the mother and her daughter, just in two different times. And then also, bad guys can be bad guys. We don't really have to feel for the bad guy so much. They can just be evil for evil's sake. They might have their own motivations. And same for the heroes, right? But I definitely would like to, try to connect my readers with my heroes and get them to actually like care about what's going on with them. So Chrome Dog's not, he's by no means fully invulnerable just because he lives in this cybernetic suit that has nanobots. He is capable of getting hurt. So yeah, that's. I could continue to go on about Chrome Dog. It's a 32-page floppy comic, saddle stitched. Currently available on fundmycomic.com. I've also got copies available on eBay. And yeah, here's a cool little double-page splash that I did. It's a conversation that Scratch is actually Chrome Dog's name, or at least that's what he goes by. And so he and Sally, his virtual intelligence, they have a coming to Jesus moment on those pages, because she hasn't been she's been less than helpful, we'll say, and so he's kind of like laying down the law, kind of telling her what's going to happen. So, but yeah, Chrome Dog also features my I don't even want to say it's a version. It's kind of like my it's a wink, maybe a wink and a nod to the Joker, right? So we got where's he at? Yeah, right here. So he's kind of my anti-Joker. His name's Bad Clown because he is a bad clown. He's terrible at it. Not that he's trying. He can't help himself. Like he's physically deformed into this mug, and he loves order. He craves order. He's not all about chaos, and he hates to be called a clown. He doesn't like it when people make fun at his expense. He like really hates to be laughed at, and he doesn't like to be compared to this man, which is his father. He hates it when people do that to him. So as long as you can play by those three rules, he won't shoot you in the face. So
sounds good.
But he's a bad guy. He's not the bad guy. But he's definitely in the mix with Chrome Dog's Rogues Gallery. I don't know how much you heard of any of that, because I know you were busy being the daddy.
Yeah, I got a surprise diaper on stream. He's watching his stories in front of me now. I got this office set up. Just got it set up in the new house the other day. Finally got the desk moved. But it's really cool because right in front of my desk is the couch and like the rest of the living room in the house, and the kid's right there, so I can see him right like while we're doing this. And
love it.
As you can probably hear, he's happy.
Yeah.
He likes stories just like Dad likes his stories. So
nice.
Yeah. But yeah, what all did you break down? I heard a couple villains. Villains in there.
Yeah, so basically, I mean, the big breakdown is that Chrome Dog is my love letter to Batman and Spider-Man, pretty much in one package, but also to cyberpunk. I love the genre of cyberpunk, and I thought, how cool would it be to have a superhero who didn't quite fit in the world that he lived in, and his body being high tech, but the people around him were kind of still stuck in a technology level that's similar to the 1980s to 90s, right? So
The golden ages, as some would say.
yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's no, there's no cell phones, and if there are, they're the like bag phones that you'd find in a car, or
So you,
or certain authority figures might have them,
right. That's what I was
but
getting at. So you still could have cell phones rationalize some shit in there, but like it's probably a
it's aged.
VIP.
Yeah, it's old tech. I mean, it's because the tech hasn't
Yeah.
been developed enough yet. The primary way that people get around in Chrome Dog's world, which he lives in Epsilon City, that's the main city that like most of the current action of the different titles that I've got planned, including Chrome Dog and some others, will be taking place. But there's other sectors, right? So the world is broken up into sectors, and each sector has its own cultural flavors and different things going on because of the people groups that actually migrated from Earth to there a couple of thousand years prior. There are a few like restrictions in place, like as technology kind of, because they all started at zero, right? And so technology progressed at a certain pace or whatnot, but aircraft is not really a thing, even though it has been invented. It's still like aircraft is strictly controlled by authority figures. So the way people get around both within their sectors and then also intra-sector travel is by train. So there's trains, there's a massive train system that kind of goes, it's global. Or not necessarily totally global, because some of the sectors may, it's within their right to be completely isolationist if they like. So there are some sectors that, you're not going to travel there easily. They're not going to let you in easily. So that kind of thing. But yeah, but for the most part, many of them do allow, free travel and free trade and all that. So I get to explore all of those concepts, right? And I also get to explore cultural concepts with cultures that don't have the trappings that we have in this world, right? So, like, for example, there's going to be a Japanese culture, but they're not Japanese anymore. Though I wanna strip them back to the Nipponese, like the original idea of the people group that didn't have that that moniker. It was foisted upon them by other people coming in, the gaijin coming to tell them what they were and what they weren't, this or that.
Yeah.
And so so I look forward to really like kind of exploring what that would look like, and then also like certain American Indian tribes that still kind of existed. They migrated because they were like, well, white man doesn't want us here. They don't really, it's like nothing but oppression here. And people can debate me all they want about that, but it's a very real fact. Okay. There is real oppression happening to certain people groups on this planet, and American Indians have gotten the brunt of it for the past few hundred years. So, there were certain groups that decided, hey, we're on that train and we're going, we're going to be going to the next world. And so that's what they did. And they kind of like allowed their culture to fully flourish. And what does that look like without, the oppression of, say the quote unquote white man? And so, we get to explore that in the stories. And matter of fact, there's a comic that's coming up. It's an anthology book called Out of Obscurity, which we've already done the crowdfunding and everything as a group of creators. Luke is actually the editor on that book, Luke Stone. And Arrow Comics, which is who I'm with. This is Arrow Comics, which is Luke's. That's his label too.
Shout out Luke Stone.
And so we've got Out of Obscurity coming, and one of my stories in there is actually because the Out of Obscurity, we're telling stories from different public domain characters. And so the one that I chose was the Bronze Terror, which is originally he was a full Apache guy who didn't really have superpowers. Instead, he was just an ultimate badass who could ride a horse and
Like the Comanches.
Well, okay, that's what's so funny. He's full-blooded Apache, makes no mention of Comanches, right? The Apaches
Right.
weren't known for being horse masters. So the writer, Dick Briefer, I think was his name, he kind of got that wrong, right? So there wasn't, the cultural sensitivity really there then,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
But
In the right
that
way.
leads me to my point is
Yeah.
that is one tribe I still need to look into, but I am absolutely fascinated by because they are, you're right, so much oppression amongst the peoples, but they are one tribe that kind of had the role reversal there, and it's kind of fascinating because I am just fascinated by horseman cultures like the Huns, the Mongols, you know what I
Yes.
mean? Oh,
Yes.
they always come out swinging and they fuck everybody up, dude, and it's so
Yeah.
awesome.
I know
It's
it.
so awesome, dude.
Oh, I know it.
Honestly, that's what my a lot of my orcs are inspired by. They're like basically Mongolians in the Arctic, you know, woolly orcs, like Warhammer or Warcraft, so
Oh
you can
yeah.
get, yeah, they're just huge, and
Yeah.
fucking hairy with the big tusks and ugly, and it's awesome.
Nice.
But
Nice.
Luke kindly made a very handsome orc. I will say. Hold on. I will say Luke made quite the handsome orc for the comic that he's doing for me.
And he's not a half orc, so he's not like half
No,
human or anything. Okay.
no. He's is this it? Yeah, this is it. Okay. He's just full-blooded orc, a pretty badass orc at that, but like I as you can see I got a lot of tattoos and stuff. So like I've dealt with a lot of artists, and just something I've personally liked to do throughout the years is just give them basically total creativity freedom. And this is like my first comic, and I really wanted to just you know work with Luke really, and just I was curious. I sent him the stories and stuff like that, and I wrote the script, but I was very, very curious to see where he would take it, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, he helped me design, the look of Chrome Dog himself.
Now,
So yeah, he and I we just kind of got on like we're doing here, just not live, not live for everyone to see, but we went back and forth and banged it out. But yeah, he does look quite dashing.
compared to like some of
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Warhammer ones in
yeah, yeah.
particular,
A
yeah, the
little bit.
Warhammer ones sometimes they don't even have like the traditional tusks that orcs have. Sometimes they're just like they just got sharp teeth,
Yeah,
and sunken in skeletal faces. It's kind
yeah,
of
because
awesome
they're
how.
they're like they're fungal or something in their origin. I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
like some kind of it's
So yeah, you
weird.
definitely do get a lot of them with the tusks, but they mostly just have like a bunch of sharp teeth, really,
Nice.
just a mouthful of teeth. So fascinating. I've been trying to collect some orc lore whenever I see it. So like recently, I was gifted a Warhammer 40K rule book, and then I started talking about orcs in my world to this person, and so he took it a step further and gifted me an orc army. So I
Dang.
got, yeah. So, and that's an example of what I'm talking about. When I see orcs, I gotta partake a little bit to see. Oh, what are you going on with your orcs over here? You know what I mean? It's just because I love it. You gotta represent the tribe.
So I
So
guess you and John get on really well.
yeah, well, he still owes me some Sasquatch burger, but yeah, we get along. It's cool. It's cool. No, I love seeing that dude go off on Twitter. It's pretty awesome. Sometimes, sometimes he can say the most true thing in the most unhinged way, and then it just gets hundreds of likes, and it's like I don't even disagree with that usually because he's like usually saying it to somebody who deserves it, to be honest. So I mean, like we were just talking about professionalism and stuff.
Yeah.
That's another great example. Probably not the most professional,
Nope.
but he is also kind of subtly showing everybody who he is with intent. Like that's like kind of who John is, you know? Like
Yeah.
he's,
No, I know. He
you
doesn't
know what I
take.
mean?
He
Yeah.
doesn't. He doesn't take. He doesn't take the BS. I got. I mean, I
So,
got him.
yeah. So with every one of those that he sends out, it's almost like just more of the John A. Douglas character. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
Not saying he's a character, but like you know what I mean?
No, but I mean, he's portraying himself in whatever way he's doing it.
Yeah,
Sure.
exactly. Just
Yeah,
like
we're all characters of our own, making. To be honest,
when I realized that, my life got so much more interesting.
I mean,
was
that's
like,
Shakespeare said it. He said it best in was it Summer Night's Dream? He said, "All the world's a stage, and all the people its players." I mean, that's we are.
that should be stressed more, I think, in our society.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, we never know what we do, and how we act, or what kind deed we might do for someone, or in the case of John, what horrible tweet he might send send somebody.
Yeah.
Might be just that little catalyst that could spark something great, or spell doom for somebody.
Yeah,
We
that's
don't
true
know.
too.
It's there is chaos theory is a possibility. String theory too. We're connected in ways that I wish we would appreciate more, I guess. And social media, I think social media counterfeits it a little bit.
Yeah, artificial connection.
It really
Just like
is.
we're just communicating, and we're not really connecting.
Nope.
It's connecting as much as just basic communication is connecting. But that's about it.
I mean, the real communication, or the real connecting and the real communication happens like this, face to face.
Yeah. So if social media could somehow be, I mean, I could see this one day where you just kind of switch your camera on, and I don't even know how you'd even scroll.
You wouldn't
Right.
need to, because what we do is we just plug it in here at the base of the skull, and then all of our facial features and everything will be in the meta space, or whatever the hell they want to
Yeah.
call it, and we
Matrix.
just jack in forever and never jack out, and then you end up downloaded in a guy like this. So,
Yup. Billy, are you jacking on in there?
He hit the jackpot there.
Yeah.
Although he doesn't think so.
Dude, cyberpunk is always fascinating to me.
Yeah. Me
And
too.
yeah, we're slowly approaching that future. How do you think Chrome Dog would do in the cyberpunk universe? Better yet, the Blade Runner universe. Do you think he would just fuck
he
shit
would
up?
Yeah, he would totally wreck like whatever they have planned. Like like Decker, he would put Decker out of business, because I mean, especially if they put him being someone that's tracking down the replicants, he'd have them in spades. Because he's got abilities, and he can leap where they would need to fly from like city to city or whatever. He'll just like leap, kind of like how like how the Hulk would get around. That's pretty much how Chrome Dog gets around. He kind of leaps from building to building, place to place.
That's great.
So
That's great.
I mean, and then he has abilities where he can like hack things. So like he can just either do a remote hack if he's within range of a landline. He can kind of like jack in that way, or if need be, like he can actually physically jack in. Something I haven't really highlighted yet in this first book. I'm working out what I'm doing in the second one, because I want to show more of his, like what he does, like his abilities. But one thing he can do is in this luscious mane that he has, right? Hidden back there are different wires that he can just kind of pull out and like insert. So he's got different ways to jack into whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so he's able to kind of adapt as he needs to, and then be able to navigate the even the low tech that he's forced to have to interact with. And even he doesn't even know what I'm talking about. Okay, and that's what's so weird about it, right? Because and I don't know if you heard this, but his consciousness, he's a human being. He is a guy, right? But his consciousness was downloaded. His soul was downloaded into this machine by mistake. Okay, it was 100% by mistake.
It's a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, well, and this body that he lives in was buried, right? So remember how a while ago when I was telling you that the world, this whole planet, right, was discovered by, there was a portal and all that, and like people came over and this and that. Well, the people that came to inhabit it, like when they did their fact finding missions, they didn't see that there was a civilization, an advanced civilization that had crumbled thousands of years before they even arrived. So
I love it.
This body that he is ultimately going to inhabit in a couple of thousand years is from that time. And so and it was designed for a specific purpose and a specific person to inhabit. And that person, unfortunately, died before he could actually go into it. And so it was ripe and ready, but it was completely buried in sediment and everything under the ocean, under this beach, this shore line. And so he quite literally had to crawl his way out once he gained consciousness. But the problem was his ride-along buddy, Sally, she's his virtual intelligence. Well, it was a mistake because she made a big, she sent out a beacon, and she thought that she could be the one to inhabit it. So she was the first one to get it downloaded or whatever. And she got downloaded to an internal little a little drive. She didn't get in the main event because that body's not designed for a machine intelligence. And so she was stuck. And so she was trying to do anything that she could. And so when she did, something happened in in a metaphysical way, and it pulled this soul, and then there you go. And so he crawls out. 6 months later, Chrome Dog number 1.
There you go. There you go.
So that's the hard sell there.
That's thick.
It's a whole lot easier for me to get into that when I got someone listening rather than trying to tell myself this stuff.
Well, it's kind of fun building it. For me, it's less like telling myself and more like building. I'm putting a puzzle together or building a sandcastle or something. It feels like a sandcastle.
Well, and what started the whole thing? One of the reasons. So I mentioned Eric July and EVS inspiring me to create a comic book, right? But part of what really pushed me over the edge was I had wrapped up a campaign of a tabletop role-playing game. It was a space adventure kind of game. And my players, we were done. And so I looked around and I saw this ream of GM prep that I had just sitting there. And a lot of the stuff, they didn't even go to the places. I had things planned for them for future stuff. And we just kind of ended the game, and we're probably not going to pick it back up or whatever. And I got to thinking about it. I'm like, okay, well, we just spent a year of our life every week interacting with each other and going on these adventures together, and all we have now to show for it is the memories that we're going to take with us. And then when we die, no one's going to care. No one's going to know.
It's a story though that you guys collaborated on.
But there's nothing tangible, right?
Right.
And so as I was pondering that, I was like, okay, how can I take all of this campaign prep and kind of condense it and create something that could be readable and something that could be shared to, potentially, with, hundreds to thousands to potentially millions of people. And it's like, well, okay, so I put it in the medium of a comic book. Now, did we have adventures that were like this? No, not yet. But I wasn't.
It was the idea.
I wasn't going to do a superhero kind of thing. I took a space. We're talking an entire galaxy, and I was like, okay, I'm going to take all these little aspects, I'm going to cram it onto one world, and then start building from there. And so it's kind of how it all kind of germinated, and here we are.
So tabletop is a pretty strong seed that a lot of your creativity grew out of, is what you're saying?
Yes, 100%.
Yes.
Because it's
Same.
way easier for me to spontaneously come up with something when I have a captive audience. So I may not be funny, so I don't think I could do stand up comedy, but it's a similar thing, like improvisation. Like
Hmm.
you're spontaneously doing the thing. So if I'm actually like sitting here and I'm describing something, well, I need to remember kind of what I said because I may have a little nugget of something that I can use later on in the story. It's like, oh, okay, I just said that. I didn't really, that's not something that I originally had thought, but here we go. Let's do this. You know,
Right, right.
but that's writer brain. What can you do?
Yeah, I as of right now, I don't really have any. So like you have what I like talking to you because you have like a character, right? I can just be like Chrome Dog in Blade Runner. Let's go. What's going on? You know what I mean?
Right?
Chrome Dog in Cyberpunk. What happens?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Lord of the Rings. What happens? You know what I mean? For me, I just have kind of like the building blocks of my world, and my character is actually going to be in my novel. And I mean, she exists, but I mean, even when she comes out, she's not going to be like Thor
Mm.
or, well, okay, maybe towards the end.
Right, right. She's got to
Yeah, yeah.
grow. She's got to get there.
But like largely, she's just like the whole point of her character is just like a mother.
Mm.
She's like a normal like lady. She knows how to play music. I don't know. Grew up on a ship, so she knows how to sail and stuff. But like for the most part, she's just your typical. Like I made it a point to kind of like, and I don't mean like unremarkable. I
Mm.
mean like just an average human being, you know. And
Yeah.
the thing is, though, when you get these characters and you mix them into a less than average world, that's where I can actually speak on right now with with my published material is my world. So the the comic is based on a story from my book Mortal Descent, and it's essentially, we talked about orcs earlier,
Hmm.
but let me pull this up here. But it it's also kind of sky, like a skyship is the premise of is the setting. Sorry,
Hmm.
I'm distracted here by pulling this up. Did that go? It went. Cool. There it is. So it's like, yeah, they're on the ship. They're orcs, as you can see, and
Hmm.
in the clouds. I don't know if I can zoom in, but in the clouds you can see the wing of the ship and stuff. So yeah, they're on a flying Viking ship. So the premise of the story is like I was learning about Vikings at the time because I live in the Midwest, in Minnesota,
Hmm.
and we decided to take a day trip, and we went to the Alexandria Museum and checked out the Kensington Rune Stone,
Hmm.
and essentially it just like inspired this. I just started thinking like, what happened with those guys? Like,
Right.
because the runestone essentially recounts these dudes coming back from fishing or hunting or whatever, and all their friends were dead. And if you know anything about a Viking ship, that you need at least like 20 to 40 guys or people or individuals, uh like rowing and stuff and just working the ship. For as small and as simple as the ship is, it largely relies on a lot of people rowing and stuff like that.
Hmm.
um so if they got all the way to like supposedly got all the way to like Minnesota, and like half their people died, I just couldn't help but think, I was like, they probably didn't make it home. And it just started getting in my ear, my the gears turning, and I was like, I want to write an orc story, you know. And the flying ship was just kind of like, sky ships are awesome.
Yeah.
And I was learning about, I think it's called electrolyzation, I think is the term. It's where you run electricity through water, and it
Hmm.
separates the hydrogen from the oxygen, I think.
Yeah.
It's
Electrolysis. Yeah.
Yes, there
Hmm.
it is. Yeah. I was learning about that, and I was like, huh. So that's one way to get hydrogen to make a flying ship. But there's also fermentation. Actually generates hydrogen, an amount of it. Now I don't know how a medieval people would separate that, and I leave that kind of up to the imagination in my book. But I try to describe it best I can. But yeah, the idea is, the way I imagine it is, yeah, you could take a bunch of living matter and let it decompose and catch all the gas that comes off of it and somehow separate that, and then you would have hydrogen that you could float with somehow. You just need a smart enough group of people and the means to do it. And yeah, that kind of captured my imagination. So I implemented both into the story. So he can use quote unquote magic to electrolyze the water, the seawater, and separate it and catches it. But he does mention fermentation as a possibility, but it takes forever. That's what the guy says. I could have had an entire novel just on
Yeah.
the crew of a flying ship. Like, come on. Yeah. But I had a short story that was my goal. It was a short story. So
yeah, for Anvil, is that what it was?
Yeah.
Anvil.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So yeah, I and it was originally a writing prompt, is what it was. But I actually walked away with that writing prompt, and I was like, kind of captured by it. As as you can probably tell, like I was in the museum thinking about this shit and like just imagining how it might have ended for him and stuff. And
yeah.
so I kind of fell in love with the story and ran away with it, and included it in my first ever book. So
That's cool.
yeah, worth it.
Heck yeah.
Worth it. But yeah, I don't really have like any superhero type characters. More just like world building stuff. I could talk magic. I could talk how old my world is. I could talk fantasy races, stuff like that. But as far as superhero like characters, the best you get is like that orc at the end of the story.
I mean,
And he has a magical object, so that's something.
I mean that's what heroes are all about. Like, people that are larger than life, doing larger than life things. They don't
Right.
always have to wear capes and fly around a city.
I'm seeing that as a common thing with my heroes is they don't seem to be all that quote unquote super, if that makes sense. They are largely just kind of people.
I mean, and that's the thing. I think the strength of character comes from the person who just says no, right? You have an entire generation that says yeah, okay, yeah, well, yeah, yeah, and then this one person looks around and they're like, "Are you mad?" No, and then they just stop. It's kind of like, it reminds me of William Wallace, right? The stories of William Wallace, of the
Yes.
the Highlanders, and
Yes.
the folks in Scotland. He just stood up and said, "We're not going to take it anymore. Like, mountain does not move. Like, this is it."
This is
And
it.
then he pushes back, and I mean that's all it takes is for a person to say enough and
Plant their feet.
that's it. And they don't necessarily have to be superhuman. They just have to say, "Damn it, I'm human.
Yeah.
I'm tired of being a beast, a burden."
Yeah. I am human. I don't have
And
to be
that's-
superhuman to be human.
Exactly. And that's I think at the core, right? That's the core of any good solid superhero story, is that heart, that little kernel that says that hero has that, just enough of that humanity. I mean, why do we like Superman so much? He's a daggum alien, right? But
He's supposed to be
But-
the ideal. Yeah.
but he's humane, right? He has human
Right.
characteristics because he had that good Midwestern upbringing of how to treat people, like we talked about earlier. You treat others,
Right.
you do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. So he has that already ingrained in him. So when it came time for him to actually like put it into action, he has that restraint and doesn't snap the guy's neck.
That's the whole thing about Superman is, his most interesting stories are where he has to battle that concept of
Yep.
superhuman. Um,
Exactly.
yes.
And
So
that's what's missing. That is the very thing that's missing in these stories these days, in these movies,
yeah.
that Hollywood's putting out, and these comic books that the mainstream is putting out, regardless of whether or not it's DC, Marvel, or even some of these Image books I've tried to read. I'm just like, this is
Oh,
ridiculous.
dude, I am so excited to read all the Iron Age books I got for Christmas with my wife, but we made a pact that we would only read them together. So I actually got they got to all get in line, you know what I mean? And John Douglas's thick ass book is on there too. So
Nice.
yeah. Yeah, whenever we dive into that, everybody else is going to be waiting a little bit. But I think when that happens, I'll be knocking out big sections. I think I'll try to do that. But anyway, my whole point, uh, I actually managed to read Paladin Dragoon's thing that he's going to be publishing in Anvil, and I'm going to be writing a review on the Substack about it and stuff. But this has me
Cool.
thinking, like, how do you? Because, like you said, this what we're talking about, like what modern modern writing is basically missing. You know, his story has like a paladin in it, and I'm just like, so this is fresh in my mind is why I thought of it. So like, how would you like have a paladin battle with their superhuman nature, right? So like their superhuman nature is that they are a pillar of justice, they're a pillar of righteousness, they are a paragon of morality, right? So how do you challenge that? Because like if you props as a writer, like when you prop up a character
Hmm.
with like some sort of superhuman ability or idea behind them, you're kind of, the more you prop that up, the more you're inviting the reader to wonder about the equal and opposite of that.
Right.
So like it's like what we said about Superman, like yeah, he's super strong and all that, but he has his kryptonite. So like
Exactly.
if you take that and instead of focusing on the physical and you look at the ideas of Superman's stories, his kryptonite is his girlfriend. So his most
Exactly.
interesting, yeah, his most interesting stories are when he's having relationship problems with his
Correct.
fucking girlfriend,
Because he can't do
because
anything about it. No,
that's
none
the
of his
most human shit
superpowers.
ever.
Yep.
That is the most
Exactly.
human shit ever. Yeah, yeah.
100%. And so
So
and so for a paladin who's this paragon of
right,
righteousness, right?
he doesn't
Let's
have a
say,
girlfriend. Probably that's what I'm saying. Like so.
well, or maybe he's married, right?
Oh yeah, that
But he finds out that his wife is a thief.
there you go.
What do you
Oh yeah,
do?
the one
Because
you love. Yeah.
he's fully invested in her. He's committed to their relationship, and he has to be like fully invested because he is a paladin after all.
That was a great pitch. The
So I
reason
mean,
I
that's one thing. His or if let's say he has a vow of celibacy, like that.
yeah,
Let's say
that's what I was
that's
thinking.
built into the code. It's his sister or it's his
Okay,
brother, right?
family. Yeah,
It's someone who's in his family that's very
undeniably,
close to him that he can't navigate around that.
he has no
And
control over their morality.
exactly. And
Uh
so
oh.
those are the things. Those are the things that I mean, you look at the classic story of Dracula, right?
Oh, great stuff.
Here's a guy who goes off. He fights for he does his duty, right? However he arrives there, whether it's he does it because his country says you're going to go and you're going to fight in the crusade, you're going to do the thing, right?
Mhm.
And then he comes home only to find that like the love of his life has been killed or whatever, and that makes him hate God.
Are you talking about anime Dracula?
Well, I don't know. I'm
The
talking
recent
about
one?
like, no, I'm mainly talking about like Bram Stoker's. Like if I
Is that
remember
Bram
the
Stoker's?
movie, if I remember the movie correctly, yeah. I mean,
Dang.
I could
I
be
didn't
wrong,
realize
but
all that was
but
actually in the. Okay.
I
No,
think so. Yeah.
go on
Well,
though.
and
Like I
yeah,
didn't
I want to
realize.
say it's Bram Stoker's, but
Hmm.
even I just recently watched Dracula Untold,
Hmm.
which is that's a really good movie if you get a chance to watch it.
It's It's hard to find, even like you line up all the Dracula shit. It
Yeah,
really is kind of hard to find a truly terrible one. Like some of
yeah,
the cheesy, and I use the, cheesy Netflix ones or whatever, like
sure,
with the plague ship plots
yeah.
are kind of cool. Those were kind of awesome to be freaking stuck on a ship with Dracula. Are you
Well,
kidding
yeah,
me?
yeah. Well, that's the yeah. You're talking about the Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
but I'm talking about like
Well,
his
that's the most recent
his
one.
original,
That's the
yeah.
most.
But his original origin, like the like what turns him, right? So in
Yeah.
Bram Stoker's, if I remember, it was like he was cursed because he cursed God for because he went and killed in the name of God. He actually, went
Oh,
and did all of the impaling in the name of God, right? At least in that version, only to come
okay.
home to find that his beloved had been killed or like whatever. And so he's just like,
Well,
yeah.
and historically, that checks out because Vlad the
Well,
Impaler, I
yeah,
love to say he's my favorite Christian
yeah.
because
Well,
he's so brutal and
well,
interesting.
well, then you would love to watch Dracula Untold because they really play up to that, and
Yeah.
he has to wrestle with this morality because he's like he wants to be that superhero for his people, right?
Mm.
And he wants to try to use that
Interesting.
evil thing to help his people, but he fails to realize that it's like the genie that gives you three wishes, but none of those wishes are ever going to make you whole.
Right.
And so
Right.
he fails to realize that it's not going to end outside of him drinking blood and then eventually becoming this creature of the
Slaughtering
night.
it. I
And
want to help
so,
my
yeah,
people. Slaughters people. Blacks out and slaughters his own people. I want to help my
right,
people.
yeah,
Blacks out.
yeah, basically. But then everyone knows that like he becomes a champion for his people because all his people he creates new people until he has his people, and it's a very sad story. I mean,
Yeah.
in the end, it's very
It
sad.
really is. Like
But
just
but
the idea of
he
killing
used
in the name of
noble.
God.
He used a noble cause to
Right.
commit so much evil, and he wonders why evil is like what he like that he reaps evil. So
Well,
it's it's
yeah, and
it's
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 like the
karma.
perfect anti-hero story, He's not really
Right.
a villain, he's more of an anti-hero than anything.
And that's a classic, right? Like,
It really is. Well,
mm,
and I mean, you look at all those. I mean, gosh, you look at Frankenstein. I mean, and these all came out of. They were all like friends. They were all,
yeah.
associates and contemporaries with each other.
Well, they
Mary
were like
Shelley.
forming a genre and shit. They
Yeah.
were,
Well,
yeah,
but I mean, whether they knew it or not, right? But they were in the same circles. Just like we are here in this indie space, they
they
were
were
digging in their own indie spaces.
they were in their own Iron Age of sorts.
Exactly. And I mean,
Yeah, yeah,
and you got Mary Shelley, she's a woman and here she is writing in a
great
time
stuff.
when she wasn't
Great stuff.
supposed to be writing.
Great stuff.
And her
The
husband,
Frankenstein stories are great
yeah,
too, dude.
but
All those are
her,
fantastic.
well, and you got John Lewis Stevenson, with the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean,
Yeah,
it's again,
also good.
it's all around that same time. You got Jonathan Swift over there with
Yeah.
Gulliver's Travels, a lot of wild stuff happening there too.
Well,
So
and
I mean,
Jekyll and Hyde kind of is playing on the old werewolf trope, right? Which is
kind of, yeah,
good. I mean, it's not a bad thing. It's he's putting a fresh spin on it, right?
sure,
Like the Jekyll and Hyde, the Beast Within, essentially. And I mean, kind of like vampires are kind of that same thing, except it's more of like existential, like I'm a monster kind of thing, and this is my nature kind of thing. Whereas like a werewolf is quite literally directly like a metaphor for the beast within, like you
right.
just succumb to you just succumb to your primal instincts or whatever.
I know most of the vampire mythos arrives from like plague fears and people just
Right,
being superstitious over that stuff, and that was, that's
right.
because there's a contagion involved, and some of the werewolf stuff, there's a contagion involved there too,
A lot of curses though, right?
yeah, yeah,
With both of those as well. It's
right.
really like
But again,
it's a lot of stress.
and anytime you have curses, right? It's superstition, like it's all part
Yeah,
of the superstitious folklore of the people that had to survive some pretty crazy times.
yeah.
So, right?
Yeah, where
I
there's
mean,
some pretty unexplained shit.
yeah.
Like,
And
dude,
these are all, and what we're talking about are a bunch of romantic authors who were sitting around after all of that stuff went down, and they're just like, hey,
Reminiscing on it.
yeah, and they're probably sitting around smoking opium and just like just
For
bunch of
real.
hippies just sitting around writing this stuff down and
For real.
vibing off each other. It's great.
Mary Shelley's like, what if like a dude just like put a dude together with a bunch of other dudes? And then that dude was like, Papa? No, that's powerful stuff though. Just the fact that
And then the dude turns and looks at him and calls him Geppetto. Oh wait, I'm
Geppetto.
sorry,
Yeah,
wrong
yeah.
story.
And then years later, Disney picks it up. That's how it happened.
Yeah, option.
That's
G.
canon. Yeah. But yeah, dude, great stuff, man.
Yeah.
I really love. Really, is all that's not all public domain, is it? Like Jackal and Hyde, it is. Okay.
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah, all of those monster stories. Now, if what isn't is I think any of the Universal stuff, you got to kind of watch what you or how you portray it. If it's the way that Universal has done things with their monsters, like you don't want to portray Dracula like Bela Lugosi, that style. Like the most recent was Renfield.
Okay. What are some details with that? Because it'd be kind of fucked up if they just like went the typical vampire route and like now nobody can do vampires because
it's not a vampire. It's like okay, so like a big black cape with a red lined inside with this medallion that has this this like it's like a specific and then also he's wearing like a white what looks like a white tuxedo shirt with no tie and black slacks. I mean, he's
pretty specific.
He's not. Yeah, I mean, if you watch the was it Nick Cage plays that style of Dracula in Renfield. I mean, he looks like he's lifted like completely out of the Bela Lugosi version of Dracula. so
while we're on this subject, are there vampires in your world?
It's funny that you should say that. Yes.
Well, I know there are in mine too. I haven't portrayed them yet.
Maybe
I have.
There will be, and I'm actually trying to work in a certain flavor of them into Chrome Dog issue number 2. I haven't quite determined how I want to do that, but I definitely want to have it throw down. But it's almost like I don't want to rush it either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because the way I want them to come out, they're a different breed of vampires, and so it may not be time for me to do it, but I still want to do it. So it's almost like maybe I'll just do a little backup story at the end so that it kind of like leaves that question is like, what is this?
Right.
But yeah, there's I definitely can see vampire clan, so to speak, could sneak over that line when they came through the portal or whatever, and then just kind of like they've been in order here, in Chrome Dog's world, from back then. And so, they've established everything, like their network and everything. So by the time you get there, there's an old order. So it's kind of like a Blade type situation where you have this old order of vampires, and then you have this new breed that kind of pops up, and it's just like, and they're all scrambling to try to figure out what to do about it.
So it sounds kind of like otherworldly, like they're otherworldly vampires, if that makes sense. Because my question was going to be
yeah, sure.
Oh, sorry. My question was going to be, is it virus, curse, or demonic? And demonic would also be like otherworldly, like aliens coming through the portal.
Like cosmic horror, kind of like
some
sort of Cthulhu sort of thing.
Yeah, those are awesome. Those are really cool.
That would be cool. But no, it's actually more of a genetic manipulation, I guess would be the better way to say that without spoiling anything. So I guess you could say curse. I mean, it's an infection that you just like once you have it, you have it. It's it's a disease, and
that's a mix. That's a mix of like virus / That's like a mix of virus and curse. That's
but it's
interesting.
but
Yeah.
it's but it's but it's an infection that, again, they're still rules, right? So they like, so the man, I don't want to, I mean,
Well, because
I know it's
genetic.
about spoiling or
Yeah.
whatever, but at the same time, let me I will say this. So I'm trying. What it is there's a new breed of vampires that comes along through genetics and cybernetics, that kind of like those two things like come together in a way that they haven't before, and so it's something that has to be dealt with, and it's causing the old guard of, your regular vampires, they're freaking out about it. And
Mm.
and that, and but it's a threat that comes along, that's like, because I have a villain who's coming out, and she's going to need an army of her own minions, and so
Hmm.
this is kind of, she's cultivating that through this way. So
Hmm.
yeah, that's
Oh yeah. The
that's kind of
closest
where I'm going with it.
I know I have vampires. That's a good take on it, by the way. It's super unique too, because like that's the other thing about these monsters. Like when we go this route, it's like you either go full like red-blooded like classic vampire, is that would still be acceptable. I would love watching something that's just like just all the typical vampire stuff, but
Right,
like done well, because then it's leaning into it, right? But if you
right,
don't lean into it, like the medallion thing, for example, is a little bit too specific for me personally.
right, right.
Personally, but I do like that it's kind of just like mainly like a medallion. That's the main thing, right? Is the medallion?
Well, I'm using that as an example. So if you were
Yeah,
to pull if you were to Google, right, like, classic, Dracula, Universal monster Dracula, and Bela
yeah.
Lugosi is the original like actor who played him,
Okay.
in the old black and white stuff.
Oh, just the
It's
appearance. I
Yeah,
see.
just, I mean, it's yeah, primarily because when you're
Gotcha.
dealing with public domain stuff, which gets optioned and created into something. Well, once it becomes that thing, well, that design, that character design,
Ah,
is now the property, right? And so
gotcha.
it's just that version of the design, but you can't trademark or copyright the different elements that make up that design, except for
Mhm.
maybe, I don't know, possibly brides. Like, I don't know if brides are still, like, if you have a bride of Dracula, is that, when you use verbiage like that, is it, well, that's the other thing, Dracula. So if Dracula specifically doesn't appear in your comic book, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
if a
yeah,
guy named
yeah.
Dracula does not appear, then it doesn't matter.
Guy named Dracula will never
Well,
appear.
then there you go. So then we shouldn't even. I mean, it doesn't matter,
Yeah, yeah.
because if we're speaking specifically of Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula, as it exists in that novel, is public domain at this point.
I I would, if I went public domain with anything, and this includes like Winnie the Pooh. I think Mickey Mouse now.
Well, but only the specific design of Steamboat Willie. So anything that happened after that
It would have
is
to be a
not.
comic. It would have
It,
to be a
it
comic.
or the cartoon, but I'm saying that specific. If you watch Steamboat Willie, the short, the shorts, all the different shorts that they had of Steamboat Willie, that particular design is
Yeah.
now public domain. Anything beyond that, anything that incorporates the red pants with the yellow
Yeah.
buttons,
Yeah.
that's
It's
not
still
allowed.
Mickey. It's not
Yeah, I
Steamboat.
I
Yeah, yeah.
have zero, like, I'm actually, I mean, full disclosure, I'm actually kind of regretting doing Bronze Terror, because I'm like, I don't know when I'm going to actually pick up, because I changed him to my own superhero in my own world, right? So
Hmm.
his story is actually existing in the same world as Crumb Dog, and his name's Thunderhorse. So I
Sick.
gave him, and his father is a Comanche, and his mother is an Apache. So I brought in the horse warrior stuff. Like, I made it fit. But I don't know when I'm actually gonna like tell his story later on. As far
Yeah.
as like continuation of the story. But I just
Right.
did the one little one 6 pager there. But But the thing is, it's not my. I mean, it's public domain, and it was part of the project. It's like
Right.
if I had to do it over again, it was like, well, I mean, I mean, it's fine for that project, but as far as like picking a public domain character and just running with it and making my own comics, I don't really want to do that.
Right. Right.
You know,
That seems like something to do when you just need like a fun little side quest once
I
you're
said,
established.
I suppose, or
Well, like
or
like
you know,
if like Eric July, for example, or EVS just like snatched up a pup like Winnie the Pooh, let's go, and they just make a Winnie
well,
the Pooh comic on the side.
so I mean, here's a funny thing. Like
Yeah.
Rainbow the Brute is his take on Rainbow Bright because he wasn't
Right.
allowed to do a Rainbow Bright story that he had ready to go and this and that, and approached whoever it was, and they declined or whatever. Like it was supposedly a done deal. I think I heard him tell the story. It was supposedly a done deal, and he had it all figured out, and they wound up not running with it. And so he was so inspired that he was like, you know what, I'm going to take this, I'm going to make it my own, and he created Rainbow the Brute. And
Yeah.
and so he
Became a
he's basically-
brute.
he's parodying all of those tropes of the Care Bears, making his
Yeah.
own little unbearables, and all that.
Darth
It
Rainbow.
just makes it fun. Just turns
Darth
it
Rainbow.
turns it into a fun thing, and that's ultimately I think that's what we all should do is be more creative and more apt to.
That
do
is
those
creative.
types
Yeah,
of
that's
things.
what I was just gonna say. Is it's super
Yeah.
creative actually?
It's like
And
I like Cthulhu stuff, but if I do my own cosmic horror, I'm going to be creating my own versions of that.
Deep
it's like
ones?
I don't. Yeah, I
Yo,
don't. But I wouldn't call them deep ones. Like I
well,
would.
no,
I
no.
would just do something similar in that vein.
That's for
but-
posterity. You never call them like yeah. You never call them like whatever. You're not gonna use the same word that Tolkien used for whatever for Gandalf. The word's lost on me now, but he's essentially an angel, not necessarily a wizard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you're not gonna use the same words. But yeah, essentially deep ones though, just for posterity. You gonna have them? I want them.
I don't know. Like I don't even want to think about that. I would rather.
I think I
I'd
got
rather
deep
deal
ones.
with more classic. I'd rather deal with more classic style, more grounded in folklore kind of stuff. Because I'm telling you, man, H.P. Lovecraft was on a whole nother trip.
Yeah, he was.
And I'm not sure if I was there. I'm not sure if I'm there with him. But
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
there are going to be some really interesting entities that might be considered in that realm. But I like to look at them more like angels versus demons.
Yeah.
Like the traditional kind of feel. But even then, I don't know. I'm still not exactly sure how far I want to take it. But at the same time, I mean, the world that I'm creating. I mean, I plan to have supernatural stories. I've actually got an investigator that's going to do that. I've got another guy who might be another sort of supernatural character that could fit in that. I just haven't fully fleshed them out. So I've got dog ears all over. Chrome Dog's going to have friends that can do all kind of fun stuff in that same world. But you got to start somewhere, just like Marvel started with Captain America and Spider-Man. So
Yeah, I that's kind of where I'm at. I just kind of picked like three of the main races and just like wrote a story for each of them. That's you got your orc story, you got your human story, and you got your reptilian story. But like one of the rules to RK, is because I wanted a large sandbox to play with. One of the rules with it is essentially every form of, because I have this, you want to get far out there, like you think Lovecraft's out there, let's get far out there. So one of the theories I have, like, okay, so we exist as a form of life, as an example of life. We exist right here, right now, as an intelligent ape that evolved from a shrew, right? We are an advanced intelligent mammal, right? That came from like a shrew. Right, essentially,
I'm listening to you. Sure, I'm with you.
That's the theory, right?
That's what we're acting with. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you think of like alien life elsewhere, and like what would an example of this, what we call human, so like a humanoid form, what would this look like in all other forms of life? Like if you had an Earth-like planet elsewhere in the universe that had like fish people that advanced to a certain point or whatever, and to the point where they're intelligent and have language and culture and are
Sure.
sentient and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in the same with like reptilians, and which, you know, reptilians are kind of already like a trope in D&D, right?
Hmm.
And other fantasy things, like even Dragonlance has their
Oh yeah.
reptilians, you know. um uh Even in real life, you got conspiracy theorists talking about reptilian shapeshifters and shit too. It gets pretty wild, but
Yeah.
and like snake cults throughout history, serpent cults. It's wild.
Hmm.
More, some of them are more prevalent than others, but you see what I'm getting at. Like
Hmm.
really smart fish, really smart birds, really smart insects. We're the monkeys. Orcs are kind of like I don't know, really smart pigs in a way, but we're both mammals. So I don't know what you where an orc comes from, but I really like the traditional fantasy races. So you got to start with some of the
Yeah.
backbone, so to speak. But you see what I'm getting at, like advanced life elsewhere in other forms.
Hmm.
But I feel like Earth already has presented what most forms of life might look like. Sure, there's probably unlimited things that we can't even fathom. Like I don't know what is like methane based life look like. Who knows? You know what? Maybe there's sentient gas clouds out there for all we know. Um, who knows? But I like to look around at the Earth and the real world and like get inspiration there. And it really is fascinating, just like looking at a mantis or like
Oh
imagining
yeah.
like learning about how smart dolphins are, and then just imagining
Yep.
a step further. I don't know.
So long
It's
and thanks for the fish, right?
right, right. So it's like I'm pretty sure in my world, long-winded story aside, I'm pretty sure in my world there's like sentient version of everything. And it's so apocalyptic constantly that a lot of times they don't even know that the other ones exist, at least for now, until I freaking write it. Until I write it. But this is my sandbox, you know.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
cool.
yeah. I did the first three races in the book I released, but you know, I I don't know where I would even begin with like a story about the deep ones, because I would ideally like to jump inside the head of a deep one. That's what I, you know. And then how do you do the story about like the mantis people, or like the spider people? Like how do they think? That's weird. You know what I mean? It gets weird. The bird people might be a little easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there's not a lot going on upstairs.
It's just birds. Just birds. Birds are kind of reptilians anyway. You know, the bird
Kinda.
people would. Birds are awesome. I love birds. Some are really dopey though. Not gonna lie.
I mean, some humans are really dopey. Not gonna
That's
lie.
true. That's true. That kind of brought us together here with the unprofessional ones, right? And some dopes. And yeah, I hope you forgive my dopiness, because
No, you're fine. No, I
I
know.
love geeking out about lore and shit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
talking
No.
world
No.
building.
Yeah, it's fine. So yeah, the I don't have too much more time
Oh, that's fine. Yeah,
before I gotta go to sleep and wake up and go to work and all that
understandable.
jazz.
Understandable.
But yeah, so just to kind of like bring it back around to the topic at hand. So you know,
Yeah, yeah.
kindness, professional, or was it professional courtesy? So I think that you know, it's professional courtesy. I know I said it in a blanket statement, and so it's one of those cases where if it fits, you know, if it hits, it fits. If a person really thinks that I'm targeting them, then maybe they need to adjust like what they're thinking, right?
Right. Right.
But but the main thing is it's the loudest voices was what I was really getting at, and I was trying to like point towards the people that if they're like stepping up and they're like becoming a leader of sorts. I don't want to say that like because that's the one thing in this space I've noticed so often. If I bring up anything having to do with us coming together and like creating something together, whatever, is like I'm you can't tell me what to do. I'm going to do what I want to do. That kind of thing, right? So professional courtesy comes into play. It was like, okay, cool. I mean,
Yeah.
I realize that you feel that way, but you don't have to like browbeat me or make or call me bad names in the process. It's like
Yeah, it's
that's
sometimes it's good to assume the best from people instead of assuming the worst. Like if you're going to
exactly.
assume it all, yeah, yeah.
And that's be charitable if anything, and but as far as actual interactions that I've had with people that are being helpful and that can like let's say I want to hire an artist and they're going to do a thing for me and I pay them and they do the work and then they do the thing, like people are being helpful. So I didn't want my message to be that people are not being helpful, because they are.
Right. Right.
But there are those who are being less than helpful for the rest of us because they're not being kind in public spaces to a majority of people, and second, there's not that professional courtesy of keeping their mouth shut about certain things and certain other creators
Yeah. Yeah.
when they should just say, that's somewhere I don't need to go. Let me talk about something else.
Right. Like, well, yeah, like you don't need to descend into it, and you don't need to just batter any random Joe that walks up to you just because whatever reason. Like, yeah, I like to go by, I'll trust somebody. I literally will trust like a total stranger until you give me a reason not to. Like, it
Yeah.
doesn't mean I'm going to be like gullible or like give you all my belongings or personal
Right.
information or whatever, because there's common sense too involved. But like from like at a distance, at a basic level, I like to generally trust that people have good intentions, which sure that might backfire sometimes, but that's on me for not spotting it well in advance before it can even gain enough momentum to backfire. But like, yeah, if you just like assume the best, I don't know, assume the
Well,
best until they literally give you a reason not to. Then you have a
well,
reason,
well,
right?
and I think that right there lies the problem, because
Yeah.
even in these high professional people, they've been burned so many different times from so many different people that
Ah,
they
yeah.
believe that this next person that they're interacting with is going to be just like the person behind them.
It's the inverse of that. Yeah, I see what you're
and
saying.
and
Yeah.
and I think that also factors into their lack of civility or their lack of professional courtesy towards other people, and I mean ultimately their kindness. I mean it's treating each other in kind rather than
Yeah.
being more charitable with the potential with the communication that's being communicated. And that's the other part, is like, is this person really coming at me sideways, or am I viewing it from a sideways angle because the last person messed me over?
Yeah. And I mean, God, that would add up, wouldn't it? Just like idiot after idiot, just a lot of people, we've all seen them on the internet. A lot of people just like are just stopping by to take a dump and leave, and then there's like swarms of bots and all kinds of stress that I can't even fathom coming from like being one of the main figureheads in like a
Right.
whole
and
thing,
and
you know what I mean?
and
So
and, and I don't think any of us asked for it. I
no,
really, even those two, I really don't. They didn't ask for
no,
any of that. They just
they're just
wanted to
stressed out, bro.
they
They're
wanted to do
stressed.
their thing, make their thing, make it happen,
Yeah.
and then keep doing the thing. And they keep getting these flies buzzing around them all the time, and
Yeah,
so they have
dude.
to. So
I think we should all stop fighting amongst ourselves. Indie is indie. You're trying to you're trying to like not have to like go along with the main way of doing things unless, I mean, it's not because because why wouldn't like an indie pass up a good deal from a publisher if it was like tons of money and all their rights retained and stuff, like, and you can always write other shit, like, so I mean, it makes sense if they're talking about making you the next, where it's an actually good deal or whatever. So like,
But well, the trouble is in this
yeah,
space, there's no one like that.
right,
So
exactly,
so so
exactly.
so I mean, at bet like so the closest you're going to get, right? There's two publishers I can think of. There's Image on one hand, and then you
Mhm.
have Dark Horse on the other hand. Now, I don't know how Dark Horse does things, but I know that they are a publisher, and if they pick up your book, I'm pretty darn sure that they're going to retain certain rights to that book, right? With
I don't think I've
Image,
I don't think I've
go ahead.
heard anything bad about Dark Horse, but tell
Well,
us
I'm not
about
saying
Image.
bad. I'm not saying
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
I'm just saying
No,
the
yeah,
deal itself may not. As a creator, you may not be able to retain the all like exclusive rights to your stuff, right? Because they're publishing on their platform, da da da. But they
yeah.
have a rigorous like publishing thing. Like you're submitting to them, and then they either publish your book or they don't, right?
Well, because the reality is, it's kind of their book at that. That's the whole point of it. Is
Exactly,
that they
exactly,
can't they can't make comics, so they're trying to find
exactly.
good people to make. Yeah, yeah.
Right. So,
So
but with Image, on the other hand, they've become the vanity press. And so, as long as you have your team and as long as you have the money, they will publish you, and it does not matter what you're making.
interesting.
And
Interesting.
I mean, if it's, and if anyone wants to prove me wrong, I'm pretty sure that's how it works with them.
Well, and human intent. You get back to this human intent. Like, you get enough people. Okay, so like a record label in music and like a publisher, like the big
Yeah, like
five or
BMI.
whatever.
Yeah, like
Yeah, yeah.
BMI or whatever. Yeah.
It's really just, they're the gatekeepers. That's really all it is. What you are doing is you're monetizing gatekeeping. That is what you're doing. You have enough resources and money and connections because of that, because everybody's opining after your resources and money, so it
Right.
feeds back into itself until you become this entity like
Yep.
Amazon. But at least Amazon is, see, here's the thing, for as evil as Amazon is, they're providing a channel for indies. Like, they're like, hey, we know we're a monopoly, here's this little path you can walk through, we're at least going to let you walk through. You know what I mean? Like, it's like they made a sidewalk for us. It's like, thanks Amazon.
Yeah, but
um
they're making sure that you know that they own the sidewalk.
yes.
Like they have,
Yes, that's
that
my
make no
sidewalk.
mistake. I mean, same with
Yes.
eBay. Like
Yep.
they own the they own the website.
This is Amazon
Um,
City still. Remember what city you're in? Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Yep.
So,
No, I'm right there with you. But
but
yeah,
yeah,
um,
well,
I know you don't have much time though,
it's good.
so
It's
good
been a
place to
good
end it
talk.
up.
I appreciate you inviting me on, and
Yeah.
got to chew the fat a little bit. This is
Dude,
great.
yeah. We it wasn't all just like big names, social etiquette stuff. We got to talk about lore and stuff too, and we got a couple good hours in there. And yeah, I loved the chat, man. You're welcome back anytime, obviously.
Cool.
And
Sounds good.
yeah, maybe we could have somebody on to talk about this subject again. But maybe not. Maybe next time we'll just talk straight up writing and art and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Whatever comes to mind. And my son says hi. If you can
I
hear
hear
him,
him.
if you can hear him. Yeah, yeah. But go ahead and tell the people where they can find you.
All right, so you can find me pretty much you can everywhere on. So I'm on Twitter at Justin K Sweet. I'm known as Agent Zero. So if you see that as my moniker, then you found me. I'm also on Facebook as Justin K Sweet. I've got a Substack. It's around. It's Agent Zero. I think I call it Agent Zero takes on the world. It's a
Hell yeah.
little play on words. Not that I'm taking on the world, is I have takes on the world. So like I have different takes.
Like a
And
take. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I have a take and I take it and it's on the world. And then so that's I haven't written on there in a while, but you can find me there and you definitely like by all means subscribe. And on YouTube, it should be at Justin K Sweet now. I'm also on Fund My Comic, where you can find Chrome Dog. If you look up the word Chrome, you'll find a few different entries. There's some little hot chicks on different covers, but then you'll see this guy. And I think right now he's battling this other guy, this big beefy dude. And so yeah, you can't really miss him. But yeah, generally, yeah, that's pretty much, those are the ways to find me.
I went ahead and tossed your
Oh, thanks.
YouTube in the chat. I didn't know you had a YouTube. I went and subbed right away.
Thanks.
So Pritchard Pub is subbed.
Yeah, and on every Monday night I try to I'm on with Matt Barr over on the Pre-King Awesome Show, which is before the CG Kings. So we're on there together. We have a group of people. Yep.
Oh damn, dude! So I've been following. So Matt is one of the original people I followed when I rejoined Twitter. So I've been following him since like February when I first like rekindled my account or whatever. Yeah. And he's a pretty chill dude. Like I've seen some of his rants and stuff too. Like we see rants from everybody every now and then. You know what I mean? Sure. But yeah, tell him I said what's up, and we should have him on too or whatever. I mean, I'm open to coming and hanging out with you guys too, if that's a thing at some point. But
I mean,
yeah, I know he's a chill dude, and I know I've talked to you. You're a chill dude. Sure. I mean, unless he's not actually in real life, but
he's cool.
I'd imagine he's pretty chill. Yeah.
He's chill as a cucumber.
Yeah.
As long as you don't come sideways at him like Liam does and all the other, whatever else.
There's a few people.
Yeah.
There's a few people who came sideways at me, and I just leaned into being nice, man. I'm not here for that.
The way I look at it is, and I'll end saying this, right?
Yeah.
So self-promotion aside, I want to say that when I entered this space, I came with the mindset that everyone that I'm going to interact with, be it Aaron Lepresti or Luke Stone or Andy Smith, right? Dan Frega, any of these gentlemen, Billy Tucci, right? These folks are going to be people that I'm going to be potential colleagues with, right? Mm-hmm. And so,
yeah. And
so I never saw it as being like a super like, oh my God, I can't believe it's this and that. Like it's just. So when I asked Aaron Lepresti to do a variant cover for me, he said yes. So he did one for me. And so people
that simple.
Yeah. People asked me, they're like, well, how'd you get him to do it? I said, I just asked him. Right.
And then guess what? You see their bad take, and then you just move on with your day. And it's that simple.
And that's my point, right? So because I'm entering the space, looking at everyone, including the fellow fans and the people that were kind of in my same circle before I actually rose up and said, "Hey, I'm going to create something." Yeah. I look at everyone as being a potential colleague. But if they come at me sideways for like completely unprovoked or like whatever, I'll just like, okay, I just won't. I mean, you'll just be one person I won't talk to try to do a project with. That's fine. Right. You can spin off into on your own all by yourself if that's how you want to be. Right. So I mean it's nothing personal, but it obviously was personal against me. So hey, it's all good. There's other people,
Yeah, I mean, because you got to wonder if they're coming at you like that. What is why? Like so if there's no visible, actual, apparent reason, right. And there's some really simple reasons out there that people could be treating you a certain way, like, oh, do they want something, or oh, they hate me because of like I believe in this or something. Right. So but if there's like no apparent reason, you just have to wonder, like, what are you up to? What do you want? Like, why this? You know what I mean? So,
right. Yeah.
But yeah, thanks for coming on, Justin. Yeah. Appreciate your time and everything. I tend to run as long as possible over here, honestly. Kahuna was falling asleep on the last one. I honestly was pretty tired too, but we got through it. If you got to run, I won't keep you, but I'm gonna go ahead and say my shill and then do the outro and fade out here.
Sure.
But
sounds good.
By any means, you don't have to stick around if you don't want to.
Oh, okay.
But I'm always down to chat after if you want.
Well, yeah, well, go ahead, do your thing.
Yeah. You can find me on X at A_C_Pritchard. I post funny memes and talk about all the projects I'm doing and share my thoughts. You can also find my Substack, which has my free content. I'm dropping, oh, perfect timing, perfect timing. Right now, at the end of this podcast, as we speak, I am dropping episode 2 of Spirit Animals for free. I'm clicking publish right now, just so everybody knows. Okay, so there you go. A whole nother chunk of the story released for free. That's acpritchard.substack.com for the free content. Pritchardpub.substack.com for our mastered podcast episodes, which this will inevitably become one pretty quick here because I've already caught up on year 1. So I'll tag you on something, Justin, when I publish that.
Okay.
But yeah, obviously sub to the pub also, and you can find my books on Amazon at amazon.com/author/AC Pritchard. And that actually helps the most aside from like a direct donation on Substack. So yeah, thanks for everybody listening, and we'll catch you next time. Peace out. Oh, I see Kahuna. See you, peace. See you, Kahuna. Let me do this.